Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Before we get into this video, I just want to remind everyone to like, comment, subscribe, do whatever it is you do if you want to see more LGBTQ plus content from this face right here. So let's get into the video. So today's video, I am going to be talking about something that I'm really passionate about as someone who is hopefully going to go into the media entertainment industry at some point in my life. I'm going to be talking about Destiel in the supernatural community because I think it needs to be talked about. I think that the representation that was given in the last episode was mediocre at best. I don't understand why the writers did what they did. I think it's just really, frankly put, what they did. But I'm not as eloquent as I wish I was, so I'm going to be reading a blog post from my sibling who is a writer and is a lot more eloquent than I am. I will be putting their link down below, so go check it out. So let's get into this. The blog post is titled "Bury Your Gay Angel." Honestly, I don't know where to start. The last few days have been absolutely chaotic in the fandom world, and the reason is something that should have brought me joy but didn't. A gay love confession. I love seeing the LGBTQ plus get representation. I love seeing girls fall in love with girls, boys fall in love with boys. I love watching people realize their gender and sexual identities. I love that. In recent years, we've started to see a trickle of good LGBTQ plus representation in media. Yeah, I'd agree with that. Obviously, there's some not great representation, but there's only so much that you can do, because there's still a lot of resistance from the industry putting not only the characters but LGBTQ plus actors playing the characters. So I might make a whole video on that, because being an LGBTQ plus and a non-binary actor, it does affect me, and I wish I could have had that representation growing up. It would have empowered me and helped me to feel less isolated by my sexuality. Despite the good representation we've been seeing, however, there is still a plethora of bad representation, and just recently we got another of this with a show already infamous for its mistreatment of LGBTQ plus characters. Yeah, Supernatural hasn't had the greatest track record. Supernatural first aired in 2005. It's a show that focused on two brothers, Sam and Dean Winchester, who travel around the states and hunt paranormal creatures and monsters, hence the title Supernatural. Throughout the early seasons of the show, the Winchesters dealt with demons, and in the fourth season, angels were introduced to the show's universe. One angel in particular has been the focus of an enormous amount of controversy over the course of his 11 seasons on the show. Castiel was introduced in season 4 along with a host of other angelic characters. I'm not going to read that joke because it is absolutely terrible. Kim, what were you thinking? Over the years, his character has developed a profound bond, in his own words, with the character of Dean Winchester. This relationship and profound bond was the subject of much speculation over the years. Some say it's a brotherly bond between the closest of friends. Others think that there's significant subtext to infer that this bond is romantic on both of their ends. So obviously, queer baiting and queer coding is not new to the industry. It's been happening ever since films and media has been around. We've tried to see ourselves in media because it was illegal at one point. Writers had to go around that and tried to make characters that the straight cis population wouldn't necessarily read as gay. The LGBTQ plus community would definitely see it as gay. And we've had to pick up these kind of scraps throughout decades of media to try and find some semblance of representation, because it's only been, I would say, only within the past like 5 to 10 years that we've started to have at least decent representation. I'm not going into detail of whether or not Dean or Castiel are in love with each other, but I will say that thousands of people who have picked up on lingering looks, romantically coded scenes, and subtle and not so subtle expressions of devotion to each other over the years. There have even been in-show jokes about them being boyfriends, always played for laughs, because the thought of a gay relationship is just so laughable, isn't it? People around the world see this relationship and its romantic potential and have dubbed it with the ship name Destiel. Destiel has been a source of much controversy in the fandom. Yeah, I remember my Super Hulock days. I never really was super into the show, but I definitely remember seeing a lot of stuff about them on Tumblr, and it wasn't always great. I'm on the edges of the supernatural fandom. I follow some mainstream supernatural blogs on Tumblr and have watched from the sidelines over the years as the discourse has raged over this relationship and whether or not it exists given the subtext that can be read in Destiel scenes. This controversy has reached epic proportions. People have been doxxed because of their opinions on Destiel. I will never agree with doxing. I think it's the most invasive thing that you can do and harmful thing you can do to someone. And the fact that it was caused over someone's opinion about a ship, about a show that's fictional is insane to me. Like, guys, it's not that deep. People have been booed out of conventions for bringing it up to the cast and crew. People have been attacked and harassed and gaslit for daring to think that Destiel subtext exists and may become canon one day. Discussing Destiel has been a taboo at convention for years now. You can't bring it up without risking getting thrown out. And all through this, the cast, the writers, and the showrunners have avoided discussing it, all despite the huge following in the fandom. Fans have been left to duke it out between themselves for over a decade until last Thursday. Last Thursday, I was scrolling through Tumblr when the first post started popping up on my feed. The hashtag Destiel is canon started to trend with clips and screenshots of the latest episode of Supernatural in these posts. I first saw it on Twitter and people were posting the little gif of him saying I love you, and I was like, oh no, this is about to not be great, because I knew the show's history and I knew that it probably wasn't what people had been hoping for. It turns out that, after over 10 seasons of subtext and hints, Castiel had confessed his love to Dean. Fans were jubilant, as they should have been. It should be a happy thing when a man confesses his love to another man. Like, it shouldn't be something that you have to look back over and then realize that, oh, this is not good representation. Finally, after years of waiting and reading into these things and putting up with people telling us we were nuts, had finally paid off. We had a confession of love. I was happy for a moment. And then I read the whole story. It turned out that, earlier in the season, Castiel had made a deal with the personification of the void where angels and demons go when they die, called the Empty. That it would take his life to save the others who were at risk at the time. It said it would come for him in his happiest moment. I never watched it, but I got some serious Buffy flashbacks with that. Well, his happiest moment was telling Dean that he loved him. So guess what happened immediately after he confessed his love? Mega hell, as the fans have been calling it. He died. He mega died in a way that he probably wouldn't come back from. Despite others pointing out how impermanent death has been on Supernatural, there are only 2 episodes left and I don't have high hopes. Not only did he die, he went to the void where he will be utterly and completely alone. No blissful afterlife for him. Oh no. For eternity. Their blog goes on to explain about queer baiting and queer coding within media and how Destiel shippers have had to hold on to subtext for a long time. Queer people have had to hold on to subtext for a long time. I know I read it before. Having just read it out loud and having come from a background where I was told that if I had these feelings, I'm sorry guys, it just hit me. I'm a bit of an emotional person. But coming from a background that has told me for a long time that because of how I feel, when I die, nothing good will happen to me. It's just painful. And that's why this isn't good representation. It isn't okay to have someone, let's see if I can get my voice back. It's not okay to have someone who is confessing their love to a person that appears to be the same gender, because obviously Castiel is an angel. We don't actually know what his gender identity is. He does present as male, so I'm just going to assume that that's how he identifies. It's not okay to have someone who is perceived as a man professing his love to another man. Gay men have so little representation. They are hated so much. Back when it was illegal to show queer couples in media, lesbians slipped under the radar a lot because people kind of would be able to view them as asexual because there was no penetrative sex, even though that's not what sex is. People have had this innate homophobia for gay men for so long, and seeing that still played out in 2020, especially with a show that never planned for it. They had 10 seasons to build up to this. They could have had this confession a long time ago, and we could have had good representation on a major show for 2 or 3 seasons, but they didn't. They shoehorned it. And that's the problem. That's why I say this isn't good representation, because it shouldn't make some non-binary queer person in their house crying, reading the fact that even in 2020, people still think we should go to hell. And what does that say about media companies that allow this kind of content in their network? It's just sad that even in 2020, we can't even have the very idea that a gay couple can end up happy. So that's my video for today, you guys. I'm sorry I got really serious. My last 2 videos have been kind of serious. I'm gonna try to make sure my next few aren't super serious. I just think this is something that really needs to be discussed, especially going into a new decade. I don't think this should set a precedent for the rest of the 2020s. I think a lot more LGBTQ plus content needs to be coming out, and I definitely want to be part of that. I want to make sure that every aspect of the community gets shown and it has good representation, because I didn't have that. That's probably one of the reasons why I started bursting into tears, because I didn't have that as a kid, and I didn't have anyone telling me it was okay. I wasn't going to have anything good after I died because of how I felt. I'll make sure that the next couple videos aren't so intense, but I hope you guys enjoyed this, and I hope to see you in the next